first, though, a man who has been ingesting football throughout the season and was out in Barcelona to watch the Lionesses tonight. They lost 2-1 to Spain in the Nations League. Is Adrian Durham. Adrian, how are you doing?
Good evening, Rory. Good evening, Olly. Yeah, just fine. Just reeling from the news. I'm in what's called the mixed zone, which is right in the heart of the Espanyol Stadium, which is where England have just lost to Spain, having led at half-time. But that's almost like an after story, really, because the big story is that Fran Kirby's retired from international football, and I think everybody here is quite shocked about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I know she's one of your favourite players as well, Adrian. What are your thoughts on the timing of this retirement? Because we've also seen, obviously, in recent weeks that Mary Earps has announced her retirement. Is there a difference between the announcement from Fran Kirby and Mary Earps, would you say?
Yes, there is. I think that with Mary Earps, she was still battling for the number one spot. And I think that was a massive surprise. I think with Fran Kirby, the injuries have taken their toll. Last year, she moved from Chelsea to Brighton. And I thought she had a really good season at Brighton, actually. Got 7 goals in 17 games from a number 10 position. And I think this one kind of makes more sense. However, to me, it doesn't really make sense unless Lauren James is absolutely ready to go at the start of the tournament, and I'm not entirely sure she is. I mean, Fran Kirby would be a great number 10. Lauren James gets that number 10 slot if she is fit, but I'm not convinced she is. So we basically could be losing 2 number 10s here. Lauren James is not fit, and Fran Kirby has just announced she's retiring. The story is, Fran has spoken about it. She has said that she had a conversation with Serena Wiegmann, who laid out her plans for the Euros, and she told Fran Kirby she's not going unless someone gets injured. So it's Serena Wiegmann's decision not to take her to the Euros. Fran Kirby has therefore decided at the age of 31, that's the end of my international career.
Adrian, it's very sad news to hear this about Fran Kirby, but if we use this, rather than a moment to be sad, as an opportunity to look back on Fran Kirby's career, quite where does she rank, in your opinion, in the pantheon of great female football players from this country?
That's a great question, a great approach, Rory. And I tell you what, I mean, I have the Fran Kirby tattoo. Nobody's ever seen it, okay? But it is there because I said, if we win the Euros, I'll get it done. Now, the reason that happened, a lot of people say that the Euros was the start of women's football being taken seriously. I'll go back further than that. I can remember watching Fran Kirby for Reading years ago, and I was completely blown away. I was absolutely wowed. You know, I'd never seen a female play football at that level that she had. And I was completely and utterly entranced by her. And I think she's absolutely fantastic and still plays great football. Any opportunity I get to watch her play, I take it. So I think it started with her. And I've just been speaking to Lucy Bronze about Fran Kirby's retirement. She's sad about it because they're mates. They go back a long way. And Lucy Bronze said that she's got this nickname that Fran Kirby hates of Mini Messi. They all call her it, mainly because she hates it. But it's been earned because she's not as good as Messi. I think we can all agree with that. She would agree with that. But she showed little signs of Messi-esque talent on the pitch, able to express herself, able to thread a pass, able to find a spectacular goal from somewhere. Just one of the best female footballers I've ever seen in my life. And I'm going to miss her. I'm getting emotional about it.
Just going back to your point there about, you know, the timings of these retirements. You mentioned that, you know, the likes of Lauren James, that you know, there's a doubt that she might even play all of the group games. So, you know, if there are injuries to these players, what happens? Because they've announced their retirements. Is there any way in which you can see Serena Wiegmann being able to call on them, despite the fact that they've said, no, we're done with England now?
Well, it's an element of chaos. A month out of the Euros that we're talking about here, Olly. And I think with the keepers as well, there was a moment in the first half here tonight during the game where Hannah Hampton went down with one of those pretend injuries a keeper has so they can all have a meeting on the sideline. And by the way, Spain scored shortly after we'd done that. So I'm not sure what Serena said in that meeting. But as soon as Hannah Hampton went down, I thought, oh, my goodness, what if she is injured? Now, Mary Earps has retired. Hannah Hampton, if she's injured, we've got 2 backup keepers. Neither of them have got a single cap between them. So I think Mary Earps' retirement has really put us into a position where just can't afford to lose Hannah Hampton. That situation is a difficult one. I don't know. I mean, I don't think she can go back and persuade players to come out of retirement. I just don't think that's an option. And we've just got to go with what we're going to go with. What I will say is, having seen Spain tonight, it could all be academic because they are brilliant. It was 2-1, bordering on 10-1. And I know England led at half-time, and they worked really hard in the first half, but Spain was sensational second half.
With this build-up, and I think you're right to use the word chaotic, Adrian, you've also got Millie Bright announcing that she's got burnout, and we do wish her well, of course, but it kind of adds to the issues for Sarina Wiegman. How do you see England getting on? Because it's not the easiest group either, is it?
No, and it's kind of unpredictable how they'll get on, because you can go to Belgium and lose 3-2 with a half hour to start with, where they were 3-0 down and absolutely useless. I think they'd admit that themselves. They were dreadful. And then they beat Spain at Wembley and looked good, beat Spain at Wembley. They've had a big win over Germany, a 4-3 over Germany. They've come here, competed in the first half, but been second best in the second half. So it's kind of unpredictable, really. But I just think that there's little elements of Mary Earps retiring, Fran Kirby retiring, Lauren James not being fully fit. Georgia Stanway had 45 minutes tonight in which she was really good, actually, but she's been out injured for a long time. Just get this feeling that it's just too soon for England. It's just too much for them to go and retain the European Championships. But I think they'll be competitive. The problem we've got is that the group we're in is really difficult with France, the Netherlands, and only 2 go through. Wales in there as well. They got a battering tonight against Italy, but they'll raise their game against England, and that's a difficult group, no doubt about it.
Overall, with this situation, with these retirements and everything going on with England, do you think that Sarina Wiegman has managed this well enough? Do you think she's, or do you think actually that she maybe could have handled this a bit better?
It's a great question. I mean, you don't know what's going on the inside, the conversations that have been had. However, the goalkeeping situation, let's take a look at that, because for quite a little while now, they've developed this situation where there's 2 top goalkeepers competing with each other. One's a European champion, Mary Earps. The other one is a title winner with a ton of clean sheets, Golden Gloves for Chelsea this season in Hannah Hampton. And you picked your favourite, and you went with that. But the competition was meant to be the thing that spurred the other one on. However, that has completely gone. There is 0 competition in nets for England now. That's a big problem. I don't think Sarina Wiegman would have envisaged that, even though we hear that Mary Earps had conversations with her some time ago. I mean, the time scale of this, the timeline of this, we're not totally sure of, but I don't know, it just feels like it could have been managed a little bit better. We're talking about somebody who's come in and won the Euros with England, so credit where it's due, got to a World Cup final as well. However, it does, without knowing the full details, it looks, all we can say is what we see, and it looks like it's been slightly mismanaged.
Just a final word before we let you go, Adrian. On Fran Kirby, where would you say that she ranks in terms of England players?
You've got players who've got more caps, so Faye White, for example, Kaz Carney. There's some big names in there. I look at entertainers. I love an entertainer. And for that reason, Fran Kirby would absolutely be my number one. It might be harsh on the others, and I'm not saying they're bad players. They've had an impact with England in more than just the football sense, in the public consciousness sense as well. But for me, Fran Kirby was always the number one, hence the tattoo. That now, if there is some point, Ollie, where you and I get close, you might be able to see it, but not now.
Yeah. I'm sometimes with you at a few games, Adrian, but I don't think we can whip it out of the G-Tech. That might not go down too well.
We could go now.
Just